Man, I'm so excited to be out here in what I think should be the capital of America because this really is the heart of this country. We're out here in Houston, Texas, and I've got my buddy Nick. Nick, why don't you tell everybody who you are?
Hey guys, my name's Nick Porter. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Houston Field Office for the Department of State's Diplomatic Security Service.
Can you actually fit all of that on a business card is my first question.
It's several lines. It's several lines I have to put on there to make sure it all fits.
So break that down for me, man, because this country has so many different incredible branches that help keep our country flowing, operating, and safe. What do you guys actually do?
Well, we're federal agents, just like you would think of for the other big federal agencies, but we're the security and law enforcement wing of the State Departments. So we are the ones that help keep our Americans safe and help State Department conduct diplomacy overseas.
How long have you been with the organization?
Just shy of 18 years now.
And how'd you get into it?
Well, you know, I really knew I wanted to get into law enforcement when I was in college at Florida State. But then I saw a documentary on Discovery Channel on DSS, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, basically looked over at me and said, you know, shut up and help me with my homework over here. And the vacancy came open. I ended up interning in Miami at the field office there. Fortunately, unfortunately for my career path, 9/11 happened, and I was hired shortly thereafter.
So, growing up, a lot of kids will say, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a soldier, maybe I want to be FBI. Not, I want to have a 4-page long title on my business card. How do people find out about you guys, and what's the makeup of your group like?
Sure. So we are a diverse mix. I'd say on average we're about 1/3 prior law enforcement, 1/3 prior military, and then the rest just come from a variety of backgrounds. We have history professors, people that were lawyers, people that were teachers. So it's really a diverse background about who decides that they have the calling to be this blend of a federal agent, a diplomat, a security manager overseas. So we do all of those things. So that really has to be somebody's calling to say, I want to do more in public service to do this.
There are a lot of Americans who say government's too big, but I don't think those people realize the extent of the work that different organizations in the government do. Can you sort of break that down for me a little bit and talk to me about really specifically what you do and why people need to know about you?
Absolutely. So I think you could break it down to three missions: protect, secure, and investigate. So domestically, we protect the Secretary of State and foreign dignitaries that are guests of the United States. So for instance, we all know the Secret Service protects the President of the United States. They also protect heads of state that visit. But anybody else that has a designation, either a threat or they are official guests of the United States, that falls to the Diplomatic Security Service. For instance, the Dalai Lama, not a head of state, but they are an official guest of the United States and require protection. So it's the Diplomatic Security Service that does that. So that's the protection aspect. We investigate. So our main jurisdiction really lies with visa and passport fraud investigations. And on the surface, you say, okay, well, what does that really have to do with me as like an average American? Well, it's identity theft at its basic core. And it leads to so many other investigations and nuances. So either people not entitled to benefits from the U.S. government, Social Security, housing, Veterans Affairs money, human trafficking, sex trafficking, pedophilia, and then of course you have the counterterrorism and counterintelligence investigations. So we do all of those. We also investigate threats against the Secretary of State and our missions, either domestically or overseas. So if somebody's going to threaten the Secretary of State, we have a whole office that looks into that.
So I have to imagine that you work pretty closely with the other, for lack of a better term, 3-letter agencies, right? Yeah. Like we look at what happened on September 11th, and we were attacked by some people who overstayed their visas. Is this the kind of thing that you guys look into? Is that under someone else's jurisdiction? Like, who decides who's in charge of what?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of three-letter agencies out there. The real core that we're looking at is those that gain passports or visas through misrepresenting themselves, and We really target those that are trying to use those for other nefarious acts.
Got
so, really people that need that in furtherance of other crimes. Those are really the types of cases that we pursue for visa and passport fraud.
So I think a lot of people who are watching this know what law enforcement training looks like. There are a lot of people who obviously know what military training looks like. A lot of people who know what FBI and agency training looks like. What the heck does your training look like?
Our training is very extensive. So just to become an agent and walk in the field office day one, you're going through about 9 months of training at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center and what is now our new Foreign Affairs Security Training Center, which is in Blackstone, Virginia. So that's a brand new state-of-the-art 1,350-acre facility that we just inaugurated this past week. And has incredible facilities, driving ranges, everything else like that. But that's just to walk in the door day one as basically a junior special agent. To go overseas to our high threat locations, that requires additional training. So we have the Advanced Tactical and Leadership Skills course. It's 12 weeks of what is essentially a paramilitary course that teaches small unit tactics, heliborne operations, everything you would think of that you probably wouldn't associate with American law enforcement. But in order to perform our mission overseas, which is to protect our people, facilities, and information at 285 plus American consulates and embassies, we operate in very dangerous locations. And so we have to have these skills in order to keep our diplomats and their families safe.
What would you say to people who would say to you, I watched that show Homeland, I know what it's like overseas?
I'd say that Homeland makes for great TV. What I will say, though, is that parallel to Homeland, we are doing things on a daily basis to keep our people safe. I did serve in Pakistan, in Islamabad for a year. We did have instances where we took our families out of their houses because of specific threats in the middle of the night in order to keep them safe. So that aspect is real. We are on the front lines of keeping our staff safe every day around the world. And you would think of places, the typical places that are challenging, and then you think of other places that, well, maybe they're not so challenging, to the average American, but when we have, bombings in places like Paris or Belgium or other things like that, we still have agents there that are doing the same thing that our agents might be doing in other more difficult places.
Man, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago, which is that you had to pull families out of their houses in the middle of the night.
Right.
It makes me ask the question of why the heck would anyone go bring their families into what are arguably, in some cases, war zones? So where I'm going with this is, I can't tell you how many of my friends and family, and I would say this right to their face, that you've got to be a little bit crazy to go into law enforcement, to when shooting starts to run towards those bullets. I have to imagine that this is more of a calling than a job. Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. The incredible challenges that we have and the opportunities are unparalleled anywhere else with the federal law enforcement. So if you want to do this job, you are someone that's probably seeking a little adventure, going to places where even you may have to look it up on a map and say, okay, where am I going? My second overseas assignment was Bandar Seri Begawan, Brunei.
What? Where?
Exactly.
I can't even spell that.
So yes, you have to have that sense of adventure. And we place an incredible amount of responsibilities on our agents at a very, very junior level within their careers. You could be going overseas, and it could be, yourself and as a junior agent and a senior regional security officer, a senior agent overseas. Well, that agent may have been on his own or her own for, several months, up to 6 months, waiting for transfers. Life happens, and they say, "Hey, man, I need a break." Well, guess who's in charge of security at that point? It's that junior agent. So we place an incredible amount of leadership and management expectations on our personnel, and I think that attracts a certain caliber to the job.
The term State Department or Department of State gets obviously intertwined, and a lot gets rolled under that from a perception perspective. The media tends to report on you guys when there's something juicy to report on. And as we know with law enforcement writ large, the media likes to go after the negative. I'd like you to speak to the need again for what you guys do and what you want people to know about you.
Well, I think the thing to know is that we have agents and other specialists, such as our security engineers, working hand in hand with our Marine security guards assigned to our embassies, our uniformed security division working in our domestic facilities, our local guard force, our host nation law enforcement personnel. We're out there doing our job on behalf of the American people every day, 365 days a year. And what that really equates to is keeping people safe. So it doesn't matter, we have people out there doing that on a continuous basis.
I hope that people take away that just like any other division of law enforcement, from local to state to federal, regardless of what they see in the media, there are brave men and women every single day who are putting their own lives on the line and making sacrifices of their families and their time and their lives. You've lost agents, right?
We have, yes, yeah, absolutely. And we have a memorial in our headquarters. It has 156 names on it right now. And that is a compilation of agents, engineers, diplomatic couriers, Marine security guards, third-party contractors, local law enforcement assigned to protect our embassy that have all lost their lives in the line of duty in protecting our American values and our American people that are assigned overseas. So, you know, it's a very solemn occasion when you stop and look as you walk in and you understand the gravity and the breadth of what exactly you're charged with doing on a daily basis. But it's a way that we can at least remember them.
Well, brother, on behalf of law enforcement today, thank you and all your brothers and sisters who serve as well.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you all for watching. Thanks for hitting that share button, taking the time to learn about these men and women. God bless America.